Chairs No Waiting, episode number 189. Doug Dillard remembered. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by the fine folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by over at Weaver's and you'll pick up some Dillard's CDs. Some great stuff over there about the Dillards. All kinds of other things too over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners like you. Thank you very much for your support. The Mayberry Band, ladies and gentlemen. Thank them for providing our tune every week. And thank you for showing up here on Two Chairs No Waiting. I'm your host, Allan Newsome, and it's great to have you here with me. This evening, or whenever you're listening to this, we'll be talking about Doug Dillard. Now, we're going to be remembering Doug. The last two episodes of Two Chairs, we've been remembering one of the greats who the town of Mayberry and the city of Nashville, Tennessee have lost recently. Sadly, both places, Mayberry and Nashville, have lost another great one on May 16th, 2012. Doug Dillard, the banjo-playing darling boy from the Andy Griffith Show, passed away on Wednesday, May 16th, 2012. He was 75 years old. Now, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through some of the achievements in Doug's life and just celebrate some of the things that he has provided to us over the years and to fans in general. Now, all of this can be found over at the eBullet website. You'll find it over there. There'll be some links to these. But there's an obituary there for Doug, and it's got all kinds of information in it. Now, we're going to go through some of that tonight, or today, whenever you're listening to this, and just share some of the wonderful things that Doug's done. Not going to go through it all, so I encourage you to head over and read even more, because there's a lot of stuff that we've done. At the Mayberry website, you'll find, if you go there, there's a memorial section there where you can go in there and share your thoughts. You can go in and post your own messages. Now, if you're reading or hearing this years later, that comment section will probably be closed by then. But if it's any time in the next several months, you have an opportunity to go in there and just tell what Doug has meant to you through the years. And so I definitely want to encourage that because, wow, he was an amazing person. So let's get started with this because this is a good bit of reading for me. And reading, never a big strong suit. So let's see what we can do here reading through this wonderful man's life. So bluegrass banjo virtuoso Doug Dillard died in Nashville on Wednesday, May 16th, 2012, after a long illness. His wife, Vicki, was at his bedside. He was 75 years old. It was stated a few years back that whenever people in bluegrass music would start counting the all-time great banjo pickers on one hand, Earl Scruggs is always the thumb, and Doug Dillard's always the index finger. Doug's dazzling picking entertained and inspired generations of fans and fellow musicians across all genres, from the Ozarks to Hollywood to Mayberry to Carnegie Hall. Douglas Flint Dillard was the second of three sons in a musical family of Laureen and Homer Earl Dillard Sr. He was born on March 6, 1937 in East St. Louis and grew up in Salem, Missouri. Doug started playing guitar at age of 5 and fiddle around the same time. He picked up his first banjo, a K model, that was a Christmas present from his parents at age 15. Doug learned his own style of three-fingered picking by listening to early recordings of Earl Scruggs, Don Reno, and Ralph Stanley. Doug often recalled his first time he heard the music of Earl Scruggs. He said, I was driving down the road with the radio on. All of a sudden, I heard this incredible banjo music. I got so excited that I drove off the road and down into a ditch. Had to get towed out. That was the beginning of one of the longest-lasting aberration societies in music. Earl Scruggs was Doug's banjo hero. Young Doug wrote Earl a personal letter in which he asked, "Is 16 too young to learn the banjo?" Earl graciously replied and supplied the needed encouragement. Doug then pestered his parents into driving him to Scruggs' home in Madison, Tennessee, some 500 miles away from Salem. With courage not usually found at that young age, Doug boldly walked up to the Scruggs' front door and asked if Earl rang the doorbell. Then he introduced himself and asked Earl to install some Scruggs tuners on his banjo. Earl kindly installed them and even brought out his own banjo for Doug to inspect. He also gave Doug a couple of finger picks and showed him how some techniques he could do in using them. In 1956, Doug played the banjo on a local weekly radio show hosted by Howie Teague on KSMO in Salem. From 1956 to 1959, Doug and younger brother Rodney, along with Bill Glenn and Henry and Jim Lewis, and Paul Beckenrock, formed the Ozark Mountain Boys. Mitch Jane, a local radio personality and future member of the Dillards, invited the band to play on Hickory Hollow, his Saturday morning radio show on KSMO. Doug also played the banjo for Hawthorne Brothers, and during that time he appeared on television with the group Lee Mace and the Grand Ozark Opry. In 1958, Doug and Rodney joined Joel Knoll and the Dixie Ramblers. Based in St. Louis, this band featured John Hartford, Buddy Van Hooser, and Joel Knoll. Shortly after joining the Dixie Ramblers, Doug and Rodney began recording for Mario Records, a St. Louis-based record label. Their first single was Banjo in the Holla. 3 more releases followed, and soon after, they began being billed as the Dillard Brothers. They started performing on their own. Doug and Rodney met Dean Webb, a masterful and intuitive mandolin player from Independence, Missouri. Next came Mitch Jane, the radio announcer from KSMO in Salem, who by this time had been friends with Doug and Rodney for years. And with the help of Doug and Rodney and Dean, Mitch learned to play the bass fiddle. Mitch had a very keen wit and original down-home Ozark humor and a sense of natural comedic timing, all of which, when combined with his bass playing, rounded out the sound and look and the personality of the Dillards. In 1962, the Dillards played their debut shows in Washington University in St. Louis. That first performance as the Dillards held such high energy that the crowd roared and stomped with enthusiasm over their sheer passion of the playing and singing by the Dillards on stage. Bluegrass music had finally arrived on the college campus. The Dillards knew what they must do. They must bring their music to Hollywood, bring that special sound to the music world at large. They left Salem in pursuit of a recording career in the big city. Doug reasoned that if the group's music career didn't pan out, he could always fall back on his accounting expertise he had from his studies at Washington University and his work experience as a bookkeeper. At that time, most country music was produced and recorded in Nashville, Tennessee. Country music and bluegrass music were virtually non-existent in Hollywood. Once the Dillards arrived in Los Angeles, they discovered the burgeoning folk music scene that was happening in a club called Ash Grove. The Dillards took their instruments up on the stage one night for the club's customary after-hours jam session. Jim Dixon, an A.R. man from Elektra Records, happened to be there and witnessed this incredible talent fresh from the Ozark. By the next night, the Dillards was signed to a multi-album recording contract with Elektra. Richard O. Link, Andy Griffith's manager and associate producer of the Andy Griffith Show, spotted the announcement of the record deal in Variety magazine. Link contacted Elektra Records and arranged an audition for the band for the Griffith Show, which was looking for the right group to play a musically inclined backwoods mountain family. They were signed immediately as recurring performers along with Denver Pyle, who played Father Briscoe, and Margaret Ann Peterson, who played the boy's sister Charlene. Together they became the rustic and beloved darlings of Mayberry. Whenever possible, Andy Griffith graciously allowed and encouraged the Dillards to perform their own tunes on the Andy Griffith Show. When Andy heard one of Doug's original instrumentals, he asked, "What's that called?" When Doug said he really didn't have a name yet, Andy christened it Doug's Tune. It would become one of the signature banjo instrumentals in all of bluegrass music. The Dillards, rarely saying an audible word of dialogue, appeared and performed music as the Darlings in 6 episodes of Andy Griffith Show between 1963 and 1966, and in doing so helped introduce the urban American television audience to the special brand of mountain music that the Dillards performed. With their high energy, musical talent, and lively presentation, the Dillards brought bluegrass music and mountain culture directly to the large audience for America's top-rated television show, The Andy Griffith Show. The Dillards also made special guest appearances on other high-profile TV shows, including the Judy Garland special, Tennessee Ernie Ford special, and they likewise they were a hit at Newport Folk Festival, Monterey Folk Festival, other folk festivals. The Dillards, during this time and later, toured with Elton John, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Carl Perkins, and many others. On their tour of the United Kingdom, they received the Edison Award for their excellence in music. Doug and ex-Bird frontman Gene Clark teamed up to form a completely new sound as the Dillard Clark Expedition and as the Dillard and Clark Band. In 1969, Doug recorded a critically celebrated The Banjo album. Other solo projects followed, and I'm telling you, Doug was an amazing person. In 1982, Doug formed the Doug Dillard Band with Ginger Boatwright singing vocals. Doug did extensive session work, including albums with Johnny Cash, Arlo Guthrie, the Byrds, Woody Guthrie, the Beach Boys, and many others. Many others. Doug also worked on numerous motion pictures, both scoring and performing in many, such as Bonnie and Clyde, The Vanishing Point, and 1980's Popeye. Now, during Popeye, Doug suffered a near-fatal fall that left him in a coma for weeks. Now, Popeye, if you'll remember that movie, was with Robin Williams. He was playing Popeye. And you can see Doug in that movie if you watch closely. Doug was headliner with his Doug Dillard Band for every Mayberry Days festival held to date at this time, 2012, in Andy Griffith's hometown of Mount Airy, North Carolina, each September since 1990. He was the only performer to participate in every Mayberry Days, in all 22. And that was through 2011. Doug was married to singer-songwriter Vicki Sally Dillard of Nashville. They were partners and best friends and had many happy years together. So that's awesome. Wow. So there's a few other things I want to read to you real quick. Some letters came in from some of the Darlings themselves. So here's reminiscing from Maggie Peterson, Charlene herself. She says, "It was my good fortune to play the part of Charlene Darling on the Andy Griffith Show. As such, I became part of a mountain family consisting of the Dillards and Denver Pyle. We clicked as family from the very first script reading. I found myself with 4 lovable brothers. I love banjos and banjo players. In real life, I have a brother who plays banjo. So it's ironic that I should be blessed with another banjo-playing brother on the Andy Griffith Show. And what a banjo player he was. On the set, Douglas dazzled me with his playing. So energetic, so fast. So, well, Doug. Then there's his adorable face. Yes, adorable. No one could grin like Doug. He would light up a room with his grin, and his fingers would supply the electricity. I feel fortunate to have known him and to have performed with him. His warm kindness and artistry will be mine to remember always. Mayberry will never be the same without Doug Dillard." That's nice. That's from Charlene, Maggie Peterson. Next up, we're going to hear a little bit from Dean Webb. He was a mandolin playing darling boy He says, Doug was such a great guy and, of course, very innovative banjo player. He played licks that people can't duplicate today. I know several pickers who play tunes like, say, Doug's tune, and they try to copy some of the licks he did, and they just can't do it. When he played, it was almost like something mechanical rather than a human being. People just can't see how he could play those licks. He just got it down so tight and clean. And he had a funny sense of humor as well. All kinds of funny little off-the-wall sorts of things that he would say. Like he said one time, somebody came up to him and said, I saw your car parked, so I left a note under your windshield. Doug said, you know where my car is? Back in the day, I had to play it sort of cool, says Dean. You know, I had to be the straight man because Rodney was acting goofy and Mitch was talking and Doug was smiling ear to ear. I needed to be somebody else. And we had a lot of fun in those years as we played together. When we talked, I would tell Doug I loved him, and he would tell me sometimes back. You get pretty fond of somebody when you work with them for a long time like that, and when you go through a lot together. I thought the world of Doug. Final thing I want to read to you, something you might find a little bit surprising. Steve Martin, the comedian, you know, the Jerk and King Tut, all those things. Steve Martin's a banjo player. You may or may not know that, but he had this to say. He said Doug Dillard was a banjo icon. He, along with his group, the Dillards, influenced so many players. He was fast, clean, a melodic player with his own style. That's from Steve Martin. Folks, there's all kinds of things out there on the internet already. If you go and share your thoughts there, you'll already see a lot of people have already been out there writing thoughts of and memories. Sad day in Mayberry. Rest in peace, Doug Dillard. Doug, you gave so much to make so many happy. May you rest in peace in everlasting's arms. There are just so many. You can go out there and just have your heart warmed as you read. And you can leave your own as well out there on imayberry.com if you'd like to. Folks, Doug Dillard, I have to tell you, from being able to be Floyd when he was playing his sets there at Mayberry Days, he's a great man. He is a great man to watch. Amazing to watch him pick. His fingers moved so fast. Playing that banjo is like nobody else I've ever seen. And Maggie had it right. He had a smile that was simply amazing. So, folks, hey, if you've got memories of Doug, I want you to head over and leave them there on imayberry.com, or you can call in here, and we'll play them for folks so they'll hear them, and they can just share some of the love and some of the fun that we've had over the years getting to meet and be around Doug Dillard as he played for us. He was definitely an icon at Mayberry Days. Nobody will ever be able to take his place there on the Mayberry Days stages. But folks, wow, we had a lot of good memories going back over the years. We can see them on the Andy Griffith Show, have those memories. And there's all kinds of albums out there. If you enjoy their music, I encourage you to go out and get some Dillard's CDs. You can head over to Weaver's. There's some stuff there. You might want to pick them up. Weaver's Department Store. Folks, I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call at 888-684-8415. You can call me there. You can also email me at floyd@imayberry.com, or drop by the Facebook fan page. You can drop by there as well if you'd like. Or just drop by our webpage in general, twochairsnowaiting.com. Any of those ways, you can give me just a little bit of your feedback, and I'd love to hear it. So, folks, you guys have a great week, and keep a smile, and go out and listen to a banjo a little bit in honor of Doug. We'll see you next time on Two Chairs. Bye, guys.